So Master Duel just released the new Therions, which is amazing machine support. And of course, I've got my ultimate rare Cyber End Dragon right here. So let's get right into this. So for the list, we start off with 3 Cyber Dragon herds. So you send it to the graveyard, you add another Cyber Dragon from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can send this to the graveyard by making an Almirage. Then 1 Cyber Dragon Naxter right here. This is one of the good extenders in the deck, though some people find this card bricky sometimes. You could play 2, however, if you find room in the deck, or maybe one of the Therion cards you weren't able to craft or pull just yet. Next we have triple Maxi because this card is broken. And then we have triple Cyber Dragon Core. As you know, you normal summon this and then you just add any cyber spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Then we have triple Ash because Maxi is broken. We have to stop our opponent's Maxi. Hey, fellow cyber lover, if you still need a beautiful playmat, backpack, or mousepad for you Master Duel players out there, go to zerodamagegaming.com and use the code SOLEMN for a discount. Personally, I like to use playmats as mouse pads because they're so big, so I have some room, but I know some people prefer just a smaller mouse pad, so both options are on there. I'm sure you'll love it. Then we have a triple Cyber Dragon. While some people sometimes find this a brick, I really want to have 3 because we are also playing triple machine duplication, so we always want to have our 2 copies of Cyber Dragon in the deck because that way we can make infinity very easily. Then we have 2 Galaxy Soldiers. Speaking of making infinity, this is just another way to have more extension to reach our cyber combos more easily. And now we get into the Therions. As you can see, we are not playing a big Therion package. While it is possible, certain decks are able to play like 3 Borea, 3 Regulus, 3 everything. Cyber Dragon is not one of them. Cyber Dragon has a lot of cards it really wants to run, and so we really focused on the few essentials so that we can put up an Omni Negate and break boards pretty easily while not running, you know, too many of these potential bricks. So we are playing 1 single Borea because we can surge this with a field spell if we already have Regulus. And so basically, depending on our hand, we will sometimes surge this, get our Therion charge going, draw into more gas, and basically play out that way. However, the most important Therion in Cyber Dragons is of course Regulus, which is our 3 of Therion. Let's go over this effect really quickly. It says you can target 1 Therion monster or 1 machine monster, which is virtually everything in a deck, in your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, equip that monster to this card. So you will basically have a Regulus on top and then a machine or a Therion on the bottom. Then when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can send 1 Therion monster card from your hand or face up field to the graveyard, negate that effect. So basically, once you have this Regulus out, if it's equipped with a Borea, you can simply send away the Borea and then you will still have your Regulus for next turn and basically negate anything. However, if you have a regular machine equipped to it, you can still send itself. So basically, you have to think of it like you have a Regulus, that means you have an Omni Negate, which of course is absolutely crazy. And since it is a machine deck, you will always have machines in your graveyard, so you can almost always have a Omni Negate once you have this. That's why we run a lot of cards to try and get to this. This is really a big buff for Cyber Dragon. Next, we have triple machine duplication. Of course, if we have any of our smaller Cyber Dragons, so it's either herds or core, we are able to special summon 2 more Cyber Dragons from the deck and that way get into our way bigger combos. Whether it's going first to make an infinity or going second to do an OTK, machine duplication does it all. Next, we have 1 terraforming. Terraforming is basically our way to search our Therion field spell, but more on that later. Then we have 1 overload fusion, which is of course incredible to try and do OTKs. And we have triple cyber emergency because this basically searches all of our cyber cards. Then we have 1 cyber repair plant because thanks to core, we can search anything we need anyway, so you might as well run this. If you wanted to, you could also try and fit a rev system. And of course, there's some more cards. I'll go over some more options once the deck profile finishes. Next, we have 1 Therion charge. If you got Borea into your mix, which is the plant Therion, you can basically search for charge pretty easily, and then charge will get rid of your Borea and draw 2 more cards. So this essentially makes it so that once Borea is into the mix, you can replace her and draw into more Cyber Dragon gas. Next, we have the card that does it all, Therion Disc Colosseum. This card says when this card is activated, you can add 1 Therion monster from your deck to your hand. So any one of them. If you have Regulus already, you can search Borea. If you have Borea already, you can search Regulus. Then once per turn, if your monster would be destroyed by battle, you can send 1 Therion card or 1 Endless Engine Argyro system from your deck to the graveyard instead. So we aren't running Endless Argyro system because I wanted to have a small Therion engine, but but you can send some other Therion card, whether a Regulus or a Charge or a Borea, anything basically, to just have battle protection. And then once per turn, when a monster is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can target one Therion monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So then if something is destroyed by battle, and this can also be on your opponent's side of the field, you can now add back a Therion. This is basically endless value for the deck. Next, we have 2 Call by the Grave, because Maxi is broken. We have 1 Cyberload Fusion to hopefully OTK. We have 1 Crossout Designator, because Maxi is broken, or if we get ashed, we can still stop an ash. And then finally, 1 Cybernetic Overflow. So this deck, I basically built with the idea that on ladder, you have people who will sometimes force you to go second, and sometimes force you to go first. Sometimes, you know, you just don't have a choice, you know. And so I didn't want to make a blind second Cyber Dragon deck, because there's still so many players that just force you to go first, and I'm like, damn, okay, now I have to have a play, you know. So blindly OTKing in a best of 1 is very hard, I feel, and so I wanted to have a little bit of both. So that's why we still have the Crossout, the Called By, and the Overflow, so we have a plan going first, you know. We can set up like a Regulus, which is an Omni Negate, together with an Infinity, which is a really solid negate, together with an Overflow, or something like that, and that's a solid board that hopefully stops them, and then we can go for the OTK. Of course, going second, we can still just OTK. Now, there are certain cards you could consider. For example, if you want to play a bit of a more Therion type of game, you could play the Endless Yugioh system. So the Yugioh system is basically just a Foolish Burial for the archetype that also adds some more recursion. Another consideration is Therion Cross. If you want to set up even more interruption in the form of Therions, you can do that with this card. Borea could search it, so that way you could have more Boreas, you could have a Cross in there, and basically make an even better board going first. But of course, you're going to be sacrificing either consistency or some of your going second power. If you want to have more going second, you could also play Therion Bull. This card is actually incredible at breaking boards. So if you want to make sure that you're like, oh, I'm going to be blind second Cyber Therion, something like that, you definitely want to be including a Therion Bull as well. And of course, if you're like a hardcore nostalgia Cyber fan, I mean, I kinda am, then you could also be playing something like Power Bond, of course. Now for the extra deck, we have 2 Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon, because sometimes your opponent will just get rid of the first one. If you're playing into like Branded, they might hold their Mirror Jade for like a long time, and so you want to keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. This is like, in my opinion, just the best card in our extra deck when it comes to OTKing, so I do want to have access to it. Then I have 1 Cyber Twin Dragon, definitely a worse one. This is more of so if you want to add Power Bond to the deck, that this really starts having some value, but regardless, I had room. Then we have 1 Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. Now that Therions are huge, this actually gets even better, because this can wipe away a machine board. If your opponent is making like an ABC Therion board, which is huge and disgusting, you can just go, here's a Cyber Dragon, got nothing, boom, your field is gone, here's my Fortress Dragon. So this card gets way better now. Then we have 1 Chimera Tech Over Dragon, once again huge for OTKing. And we have 1 Chimera Tech Mega Fleet. Of course, some decks just still auto lose to this card. 1 Cyber Eternity Dragon. This card doesn't come up that often, but you know, we have the room for it. 1 Constellar Pleiades, because we are able to make rank 5, so I haven't crafted this yet, you know, it's just I had room. Then we have 2 Cyber Dragon Nova. This is what we usually make going first, to then hopefully make our 1 Cyber Dragon Infinity. If you really are afraid of getting into a grind game, you might want to play a second Infinity. Then we have Zeus to wipe away the board. 1 Almirage, because sometimes we are going to be linking off one of our smaller Cyber Dragons into this. Then we have 1 Seeger, which is also just part of, you know, the Cyber Dragon archetype. It's our only link. And then we have 1 Verte Anaconda, because sometimes we still have to just, you know, fuse from deck. So this is my current Cyber Therion deck. Of course, I'm going to be making this Regulus and this Colosseum ASAP, so I can also get some combos and some games on the channel. Let me know in the comments if that's something you want to see, of course. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.